What's going on, everybody? I look like I walked to Mordor and back today. The eyes are red. All right. Welcome to the stream, and I'm gonna say everybody's favorite thing. We in the stew, baby. I gotta make a shirt that says we in the stew. If I don't, I think I'm just doing us all a disservice. All right, it's been a minute since we've been on the channel. First of all, how are you guys? Good to see all of you. What a beautiful community we have. I just want to start with that. Hope you had a great Mother's Day. Yeah, I hope you guys had a great Mother's Day. As of right now, I want to get into some news. Yeah, I wore a red hat so you wouldn't notice the contrast between my eyes and my hat. And again, they're red from being tired. They're not from any substances. Okay, so everybody just calm down. Calm down. Okay. They're red because I'm tired. Been up since 2:30 in the morning. Okay. So let's get right into it. I have been, as you have all been, seeing constant updates and videos being made on the internet about this new virus. Now, we need to just slow down. Everybody slow it down, okay? This is what happens when people pick up a story, and this is what we talk about with media all the time, and we need to continue to have a conversation about slowing down before we react, okay? So first of all, I see this on, I want to say Instagram. I'm scrolling through and they're talking about the cruise ship. And the cruise ship is a big deal. And we're going to go through. I'm going to share my screen with you because I'm just one of those guys. Okay. We in the freaking stew. Here you go. Where the hell did I go? What the hell is even that? All right. I guess I'm big now. Okay. So the hantavirus. I'm going to be careful with what I say because you already know how it gets a little wild out here when we start using certain words. It just trigger words. Okay. We're going to talk about what is going on right now. So the CDC is responding to a deadly hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship in the Atlantic Ocean, reported on May 2nd, 2026. So I see a TikTok, Instagram reel, whatever you want to call it. And it says, it's happening again. So this was my introduction to this whole situation. It says it's happening again. And it's someone reacting to this situation with the cruise ship, saying that basically here comes COVID 2.0, right? Let's get to it. The World Health Organization has confirmed the type of hantavirus responsible for this outbreak is the Andes virus, which can lead to the hantavirus pulmonary syndrome. HBS is a severe and potentially deadly disease that affects the lungs. Okay, so let's just stop. It is crazy that it's always respiratory. I'm not saying that this is a new virus. I'm just saying that this is. Why are they attacking your lungs? I don't know. Okay, now I'm going to give you my taste before we finish this article. So, like I said, it's someone sitting there saying that this person was infected on the ship and now the ship is on lockdown and they will not let it port. They will not let it go. Anybody get off the ship. You are locked. And then there's a viral video of a man who says, we are on the ship. And he's like, this is not funny. We're human beings. We're locked in here. I'm going to say this. I don't have a fear of the ocean or boats or anything like that. But being confined. Wow, I sound nasally on that one. Confined. Being confined on a boat. Wow, I sound nasal as hell. Sorry. Being confined on a boat would make me go crazy. Because if you guys have been on a cruise ship, it doesn't matter what size, your living quarters, okay, the poop deck, whatever you want to call it, I don't know what it's called. Your room is tiny. Your bathroom's tiny. And unless you're like on the Ritz-Carlton, okay, out there kicking your feet, going, it is a small freaking space. We're talking smaller than your New York, little studio apartment. We're talking like you stand up and you step 2 feet and you're on the deck. You step back, you're in your tiny little shower. And again, I'm a bigger guy, so I'm not a fan of small spaces in general. Okay. So you're stuck on this. He makes his video and this is what people are picking up on. So let's try to break it down as it's going. What's happening is you get the news that this is happening on the ship. Then you have a filmed session of people saying that a passenger had passed away. And, they said in the debrief on the boat, they said that the passenger had passed away due to natural causes. But again, you're hearing that there's this virus. Now, there's a movie. I don't know what the movie's called. There's a movie about this whole situation. It's like an outbreak movie where it starts in a pig and the lady gets it and it like shows the virus spread and it like takes everybody out. Okay. Slow it down. That's what I think is happening here is you get this tidbit. So again, someone posts his video and says, "Oh my gosh, look what's happening. Here's this guy reacts to it." Now again, you're getting just the snippet, you're not getting a full story. And then somebody said post just the video of the captain. I want to say it's the captain, okay, saying that someone passed away on the boat. And then you have, the story going back and forth how it won't be docked and how they refuse to let them even port and dock at a port and like even be there. And they're talking about how people are coming on in the hazmat suits and all this stuff. Okay. Now again, I'm starting to sit with you guys on this one. We've always talked about doing a subscriber cruise, like our community doing something big. And I'll tell you why I always thought a cruise. Let me give you my take on a cruise. Strawberry daiquiris, number one reason. Number two, you get tan. Number three, saltwater pool, self-cleaning. Sometimes there's seaweed in it. There's a lot of stuff to do on a boat. Shuffleboard, buffet, self-serve ice cream all day. Their ice cream. Let me say something. I'm gonna get pissed off. This is called ADHD, but I don't give a frick. If I can go on a cruise and get soft-served ice cream 15,000 times a day, if I wanted to, but McDonald's can't handle the load of all the people driving through to get ice cream, which has to be a smaller percentage. You shut up. Shut up, McDonald's. You're lazy and you come out here, oh, ice cream machine's down. Okay, all I wanted to do is get my kids a McFlurry. Now, because I can't get your ice cream, they're pissed. Now they're crying, and I got to deal with that. So that's your fault, McDonald's. How about that? But I was thinking buffet. I was thinking, I've been on a few cruises. Again, not my favorite thing. I went on Carnival cruises though, and let's be honest, there's levels to this. I've never been on the Royal Princess. I've never been on the Titanic. So at that point, I'm sure each level is higher. Okay. But I've heard Carnival Cruise is kind of like the Spirit Airlines kind of situation. No disrespect, I'm just saying. It's just kind of like a lower end cruise. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. And our first one was a little different. There was really nothing to do. We were kids, and there's like a kids club, and that's not fun. You're like literally just being babysat all day while your parents have fun. And then I think we went to Jamaica and stuff like that, but we really couldn't do anything for whatever reason. The second time we went on the cruise, we had a lot of fun. We did the excursions. We went to Cancun, I want to say, or somewhere in Mexico. And I don't know, whatever. Okay. I got my hair braided. I had no hair. It was just long enough to braid. And all the women who were braiding the hair were laughing at me because my hair was sticking straight up and I had a bunch of beads and it hurt like hell. And I was all split and all I could see is my skull, my scalp struggling to survive. R.I.P. Spirit. I've been on, you know what? And I'll say this too. I've been on a few nasty airlines. I think Allegiant is the great value, which is like a little bit better than all the lower ones. But I don't know if I think I've been on Spirit one time, and the turbulence would make you think that you're going through a hurricane. So, glad you missed the Titanic. I like how you guys catch all the random stuff that I say. But yeah, Carnival is like the lower, let's just be honest. It's just like it's not a lower class. It's just that compared to like a bunch of other things, it's not the highest ranking on if you like looked up cruise rankings. Yeah, exactly. You get what you pay for. And again, it's an all-inclusive situation. We are getting off track, Colby Ryan. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to sit here and start talking. I'm going to start ranking cruises, even though I've never been on another cruise. I will say one last thing. I've always wanted to go on a Disney cruise. But again, if you're on a cruise, I'm sorry, I'm not going to finish. I'm going to finish this thought. If you're on a cruise, you're all together and you only have a confine. So you pick things to do all day together. And I was thinking, like, how much fun will we have? Come on. We take over everywhere we go. We go into a room. We take over the dinners. We're having lobsters. We're eating apps. Come on, bro. That would be fun. So that's why I thought a cruise, and everybody could do their thing. Okay. Now back to the boat part though. Your living quarters are not big. You're very confined. And if you hit any kind, this is the only time I was like, this was freaking me out was, what is it called? Not turbulence. What the hell is it called when it's wavy? All right. It's wavy. There's waves. We were watching a comedian We're watching a comedian and I could feel the boat lifting and dropping. I did not like that. So being on a boat would not be my first thing. I'd rather be in the air. I'd rather fly than be on a boat. So anyway, being crammed on the boat, not fun. Back to our point. I really lost my train of thought here. And if you're following me, thank you. So this is why I'm going to kind of skip the CDC thing. I think we're pretty clear that they're trying to figure this out. Know the risk, and this is where it all blew up out of proportion. Nobody wants COVID 2.0. Nobody wants to go through it, and I've already seen the outrage of people saying, I'm not going to stay in my house. I'm not going on lockdown. They're never going to do that to me again. And this is always, and we might get into conspiracy theories tonight, just a little bit. I don't like conspiracy theories because a lot of times they don't have a lot of merit, but we'll get to it. Know the symptoms. This is the interesting one, and this is where I kind of want to spend some time. Know the symptoms is fatigue, fever, muscle aches, especially in the large muscle groups like the thigh, hips, back, and sometimes shoulders, which I feel like when you know you're getting sick, like you feel it in your bones. You know what I mean? You feel it. Like, you know, hey, I'm getting really sick. So the weird thing is, though, this really reminds me of COVID. Besides, with COVID, I had a really bad chest. Why can't I think of words tonight? Congestion. And it was bad. Like, I couldn't breathe very well. And I had the highest fever on my third time I had it. So I had about 3 times. The third time I had it was the highest fever I've ever hit. So there was different strands. And this is where it's all getting really, really scary for people because they don't want that. But it's the outrage of the social media that's mixing in the pot. So now we're having this conversation of, are we going back into this place where here comes COVID 2.0? We're all going to stop. We're all going to, be back in our houses. And this is where it's like this huge uproar. Now, again, there's not a big case of the spread. You guys remember, and again, this is what's so crazy. Just so we can go back to 2020, which I never want to. Worst year ever for a billion reasons. But during that time, I just went to Lori's arrange. I don't know what the thing was. It was like her first time. She got extradited back to Idaho. She got picked up in Hawaii and arrested. She was in jail for like 3 weeks, I want to say, maybe 2. And then they brought her back to Idaho, and I went up there to see her. And we were all there. And I swear on my life, it was like maybe the week we got back, we had what we think we had a COVID, because at that time it wasn't really a thing as far as like widespread, but it was like coming around that we were hearing all this stuff. And I remember, for me, since I'm a sports guy, when the NBA shut down, even like before a game, I was like, okay, this is like crazy. Like, this is really stopping events. People are at the event and it's stopping it. And so I remember not really paying that much attention until it got to that like higher and higher levels where people are starting to really debate, what is this? And you guys remember that. I don't know if, like, for us, we're in like a major place, like a major city. So you're not going anywhere. Like, everybody is like shut down. And if you go to the store, you have to comply to get in, or else everybody's screaming. It's like a big deal. But I had that sickness. I had, like, when you have the tears pouring and the congestion so bad, like I had that for the first time. I was really sick. The second time, I don't really remember how to differentiate the second time, but the third time that I had tested positive for COVID, I had the worst like chest congestion I'd ever had. And it's really bad because I've had double pneumonia, and I've dealt with the valley fever. So that was actually the most sick I'd ever been. But like, as far as getting a virus, it felt like what I would imagine putting super glue over your lungs is. It's that crazy. It was so thick. There was no breaking. There was no breakage. So that was a really, really bad feeling, almost like a weight and a heaviness to your chest. So I could see how that could be really dangerous for a lot of people. So I get that. Colby, you cracked me up. You're the best. You're the best. Thank you. So it's possible. I think there's lots of factors. I think there's genetic factors, how people react. That's the thing where we go crazy on these viruses, though. This is where people get so scared, is you don't know how your body's going to react. Again, I hear all the time in the doctor about my meningitis, about my stuff that I'm going through. They're always like, you're so young and healthy. You're in such good shape. and all these factors. And I'm like, that doesn't really matter. But I know from some standpoints, certain factors do, come together, right? But I do think there's probably some genetic stuff and there's probably some blood type stuff. The problem that I'm just gonna say, because I really just don't care. My biggest thing is with this whole situation is at the end of the day, stuff's getting moved, is stuff getting pushed out there, right? Like that's what scares me because I've done a lot of military studying and it's a very interesting subject to me. But I know biological warfare is like a huge thing. And we're at a point now in technology where biological warfare can be huge, right? We're going to go from the covert ops or the giant, huge, situations where you drop something and annihilate people to like people being more like biological warfare and tech warfare. That's kind of like the thing that's becoming more and more. So it worries me because now I can't imagine being in a lab and manipulating things and creating viruses. And my question just comes down to, and I know with this virus, I've heard that's around, but like, what are you creating viruses for? What are we doing? That's not what we need to be doing out here, right? We should be trying to, and I understand, like, I'm not a medical professional. It's not really my place to try to sit here and say all this stuff. But what happens is in all this realm, when something's misunderstood really badly, it blows up. And we already survived through COVID and people are terrified. And I'm seeing in the comments, I want to go back to a time that was not that long ago that we had a nightmare on TikTok. The nightmare of social media was that there was a bunch of people, and I'm pulling this right out of my hat because it applies to this situation, but it's the same kind of movement. It's fear-based. What happened was there was a bunch of people talking about how the rapture's coming. And in that time, people were giving away their cars, selling their homes. It was like madness. People genuinely believed that the rapture was going to happen. And there was all these Christian pastors, okay, really loose with the word Christian, saying stuff like this, like, hey, it's happening. They were giving dates, which is literally the exact opposite of what the Bible says. So let's just stop right there. If anybody ever tells you the rapture's coming on this day, stop. Stop it right there. Okay. IPS. You're getting reported. But it created a lot of fear, and people were doing things based off of what they're watching because they turn this on and they don't fact check the stuff and they freak the frick out. So they sold their houses, they sold their cars, they started preparing themselves for the end. This is real. Yes, thank you. See, and this was real. This was a real thing. People were genuinely terrified, and people are like, okay, I'm going home to heaven. So I don't know. What do you do? Like, if I'm prepared for the rapture, I don't even know. You can't prepare for the rapture. You just can't. There's no way. So even if someone was like, okay, it's happening on this date, you get all your affairs in order. Why do you care? You're going to blip. You ever seen Infinity War? You're blipping. Like, that is what that is. That is technically the rapture in some capacity, right? So, an analogy for it, at least. There's no real reason to do anything. And so all those people sold all their stuff. Well, they didn't get raptured. But that was a movement. And the thing is, what I'm starting to think in my head is when you go on social media, I don't know about you guys, but I'll watch a video or something of that, and then I'll go to the comments. Now, the comments kind of reaffirm the interactions that we're having with the video. And in those interactions, sometimes you find the connections, sometimes you find something that speaks to you, but really what those comments do is they reaffirm, I don't know, public opinion. It's almost like hearing people's thoughts. It's like a message board almost, like you can just hear someone's thoughts on these subjects because that's what the comments are for. And then I realized how easily manipulated that can be by big places, right? You could bot comment fear, and people would start to create the sentiment in their head. So today, this subject that I'm bringing up is less about the virus itself and more about how we think and react to media. And it scares me because I could probably scroll on my phone right now, find a video that's, again, this is not part of my algorithm. It's not like I'm looking for what is going on in that boat. And it's not any disrespect to those people or that I don't think the situation is serious. It's the fact that we take something and blow it out of proportion. And now with COVID, we have something to compare it to. And so the fear becomes, are we about to have a whole nother sweep of the nations, the world? Are we about to shut down, right? Are people going to have to be locked up? And then people are immediately like, I'm not doing that. Like, you'll see, go scroll the comments on those videos. I'll never do this again. I'll never go through that again. I'm not getting, people argue about the vaccine. It gets crazy, right? It gets crazy out here. So, it's interesting to me though, simply just because these subjects they're just so blown out of proportion and people don't go and look. And I think that these kind of words, like things like this, I don't know if you guys can see this. Maybe I'll switch me to little, go to my little box, put me over here. Do a switcheroonie. I don't even know if you guys can see that. It says HPS can be deadly. 38% of people who develop a respiratory systems may die from the disease. Now slow it down. Let's put that into context. The percentages that anybody talks about in the world, okay? What are they actually based on? There is no database in where every person is in a percentage. This is a percentage of either a calculated thing, which is just math, or it's based off of like when you see people say surveys or this or that, you're taking the pool of the number that they're talking about and saying this percentage of this people. So like, let's say you make a burger and then you get 100 people that are friends and family to rave about your burger. You can say 99% of them love the burger. That number sounds better than 99 people, right? So I always am wary of percentages and numbers because what's the data pool? And is there slow it down. Is there a what's the word? Is there anything else going on in their body? Is there any other sicknesses? Are they, age matters, health matters. There's other factors here. So this kind of whole thing looks really scary because 38% of it, it's highlighted. I'm clicking on it. Why you flag this? But it says 38% of people who develop respiratory systems may die. It's like those freaking ads when we turn on our TVs or like even on YouTube, you turn on and it's like they give you the drug and everybody's like dancing with flowers and everybody's just having the best time and like they're doing a cookout. And then like it's like Busta Rhymes, he just runs through like, and maybe it's probably gonna have your eyes blow out and you're probably gonna have brain surgery if you need it. And you're probably not gonna have ears after you're done. That's just possible. And you're probably gonna have the runs and your blood's probably gonna turn blue and you might have to go to the doctor. And it's like, damn, that's the part you should slow the frick down, brother. That's the part right there. But it's like, those are possibilities. So I don't know. I always get wary with that stuff, but it freaks me out because this is what causes the fear. This is right here. Right here. You can't even see my mouse. This is freaking people out. And so you get this idea, okay, 38% of people who develop respiratory systems may die. Why that stat doesn't actually have a stat? Can we have that conversation? That sentence is not making any kind of freaking statement. Can we break that down and just show you how they're scaring you? 38% of people who develop respiratory system symptoms may die from the disease. Okay, but if I have a respiratory system failure from something else, I may also die. So it's just, I don't understand how to follow that logic. Okay. So that's where this is where I'm going to end this part of this, but it's crazy because the situation is they're looking at it as it's contained. Now, again, there's just no marginal way we can truly pick out and understand where the virus is, who has it, where it is, and how it's going to affect people. That's the thing where I think we need to slow down and stop freaking out. And then number two, I don't like some of the stuff they say, to be honest with you. I feel like they're trying to cover their bases. Again, I can't put myself in their position. I don't know how you're supposed to respond to this kind of stuff if you're trying not to cause fear or you're trying to act like you have a hold on this type of situation. But here's what the media, and I'm going to add in a new media. I've seen this more on social media than I have seen on the media. Okay, so we need to separate. I guess we'll call it legacy media versus new media like podcasts. And then there's like, I think there's a form of media that kind of counts into the TikTok Reels people. And they're the ones that are unhinged. And I'm sorry, it's just the truth. Like, it's probably the most inaccurate information you'll get, but that's what is grabbing the majority of the attention. You watch these videos, someone's got a bunch of views on it, and it's just them riling off thoughts because they're just, okay, I'll give you a perfect example. Kevin Hart's in the media right now because he did his roast on Netflix. A bunch of people went to it, and there's all these moments coming out. Right before this, though, when this whole thing was about to happen, Kevin Hart, whenever celebrity does something that's like getting attention, their name goes back into the algorithm and it starts generating a bunch of information about the person. And so that's why people trend into things, because that thing is hitting inside the system's algorithm. I think that's what they do. And so because they're talking about Kevin Hart, some people were saying that his wife that he's with right now, who was at the roast that was like last night, I want to say the night before, and they were saying that she's mad at him because he wants to pay child support for his kids. Like he's paying too much child support, or no, he's not child support, but like he's paying his kids a bunch of money per month or something like that. And then they, like, all these people jump in that same way. Like they're giving you facts and they're responding to it, like reaction with inaccuracies. And they're just going on. And so my point being, that's how we're seeing all of this stuff in this TikTok era, is snippets, tiny little sections that you don't even know are true or not, without any factual basis, that are just told to you, put in your face, and then someone having a entertaining reaction, and then you take that as your news, and then also your algorithm says, hey, you like that, so if you interact with it, right, if you comment, like whatever, you're telling your system you like that kind of stuff. And so, or you watch it all the way through and it wants to pump out more. So again, you go on here and you watch for the virus, right, it's going to be, a bunch of other stuff about it. So that's how you see more and more and more. The thing is, people are taking little pieces of this story and giving you fear. They don't even know. I don't even know if they know what they're doing. I don't know if it's conscious. I don't know if this is just how the world works now, but they're just giving you tiny little things. I agree with you. It has nothing to do with anything. I'm just giving you an example, because there's all these people who are reacting to the Kevin Hart thing in their own videos, like, or stitching in or whatever the case is. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, because I think they were saying it was with his current wife, who he's still with. So that doesn't make sense. And I'm pretty sure his daughter is an adult, and you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. My point is, it's irrelevant, but it picked up a lot of speed really quickly. And then people are jumping in and constantly, just making their own videos, trying to get in on it. And that's the problem. A lot of people are just like, now they're not trusting of the big media, the legacy media. And so they're going to want more of the people who say they're just the fact checkers. They're just I only talk facts and this and that. Well, let's be honest. Every single one of us has some kind of bias, whether it's intentional or not. We all have a certain lens that we see life through, and that's what happens. And the problem is, even if we bring something up like this, I want to say that, in this circumstance, it bothers me to see people having these type of reactions. And I always think of people who are younger, because I didn't have this issue, right? I'm 30, and I did not grow up in an era where, like, I was probably 17. I swear I was like 17 when I posted my first picture on Instagram. And back then, remember, each one of the social medias had its own thing. So like Twitter was just words. If you wanted to just write something, you went on Twitter. If you wanted to just post pictures, you went on Instagram. If you wanted to post a 6-second video, you went on Vine, right? And you like had each thing did its own thing. And now everything does the same thing, right? Remember stories? I don't even remember where stories started. I want to say Snapchat. Was it Snapchat or was it? Yeah, Snapchat had stories, and then Instagram had stories. So my point, I'm making a bigger point here. The point is that when I was growing up, I didn't have the issue of scrolling on my phone and not knowing anything about this virus. And maybe what if I'm following someone who talks about it? But again, if they're not informed, and then you hear more and more information, it gets in your head. And now you're probably like worried that this thing is going to spread, and are we in COVID 2.0? And it freaks people out. So I think about the younger generation. I think about us, and I think about how media is out of control. And I don't want to say we need to regulate it. I wish we could, but there's no possible way at this point to truly, with the way we have free speech and everything, we couldn't really filter out, who's giving good information and who's not. And again, people make mistakes, or people just want to take advantage of the moment. I don't know. I just wanted to come on here because I see it, and it frustrates me that it's causing so much havoc. The end of the day, we are sitting here worried about things, and it's causing so much fear. And that's a number one problem. It causes the fear that gets you to stop thinking. So if you looked at your brain and you went through a test and you watched how your brain reacts to fear, fear is so powerful. And when you get into fight or flight, right, and your brain starts to go into that place, you dump a lot of your other, thoughts, and you start to get into this place. Well, if you live in fear, right, like put you in you're going to have a totally different reaction if you're in a cage with a tiger versus sitting on your couch watching an intense TV show. But either way, your brain's always reacting because it's made to survive. So you are made for survival, and so whatever you're looking at still gives you a reaction. And I was just thinking this last night. I was thinking to myself, every time you watch something, if it's like you're getting synthetic doses of this action, right? The thing's not actually happening in real life, but your brain is still perceiving what you're watching. And it's interesting because we're I don't know. I don't think our brains were made for this much. And the thing is, people are scared, and they're really scared about this because they already lived through COVID. Some people have lost family members to COVID. And so this idea that there's something else that could stop their lives. And again, let's go back. I had the worst year in 2020, but so did so many other people. Okay. And the kids in 2020 didn't get to graduate. They didn't get to have their ceremonies. There's so many things that they missed out on that were like lifelong things, right? Some people got married during that time. And, you remember all the videos and all the, information that people were just like living in in a world where everything was shut down. Everything was ruined compared to normal. And it's sad. And it's really sad because that was, it's like, okay, the smart thing to do. And then you hear all these people, and this is what bothered me the most. I'm just going to say it straight up. When I saw celebrities jumping in and they're all saying the same thing, that's what worried me. And the incentives to go do stuff, that's when I was like, we need to have a conversation about this. Like, if I go do this, you're going to give me a Krispy Kreme. Like, that just makes me immediately like wary of what your intentions are. Like, you do this, I just didn't like that. That's all I'm saying. I think that was the wrong way to go about it. And you just don't, you don't mess with that. It bothers me. You don't incentivize people. You help them make informed decisions about stuff like that. That's all I'll ever say. If you're going to do something, you need to be informed about it, and you need to make sure you're not damaging yourself. And again, I'm not a medical expert, and I just am giving you a personal opinion. But when we talked about this earlier, it really comes down to one major thing, which is exactly always ask questions, but also don't let fear. This is the thing. Fear will get you to do something, right? They always say people are desperate or do desperate things in desperate situations. So you act different depending on the circumstances you're faced with. Well, if you have a fear of this happening, your brain's going to do what it does, fight or flight, So I'm just going to encourage you guys to continue to do your research and, just don't freak out, get as informed as you can, and, keep trying to be healthy. That's the only thing you can really do. Is the best thing you can do is take care of your body, your own self. If you focus on your health and you make sure you're doing what you need to do, everything else is just as it comes. But fearing, this is the thing. I told you guys, I learned this from a Navy SEAL. Fearing the thing that might possibly come is not going to change the outcome. So if this is a tsunami wave and it happens, the fearing that it might happen is not actually going to change the outcome. And in our brains, we're like, well, I'd rather be prepared, right? Well, you can't really prepare, right? So just always be alert, right? But I can't stand it anymore. I can't stand looking at people being scared. And we just need to take a step back, think for a second, relax, and not jump to conclusions. That's it. That's all I wanted to say tonight. Because I think we need to help people get back to the place. And I don't ever want to sound like I learned how to be this way. So I want this to sound, I don't want to sound arrogant or like I'm better or anything like that. I just want to say it the way I think of it in my head, which is just simply we need to get back to thinking a lot more than reacting. That's it. We're very reactive. And it's, whoa. We're actually put in that position because that's how the world is, very reactive. And it just wants to throw something in your face. And I don't know. It just is. So my screen's all over the place. Oh, man. No, I get it. And it's okay. Those are concerns. Remember, we talked about concern and worry are not the same thing. I would feel the same way right now. Like if I know that there's something out there, I'm going to say, well, I wouldn't want to go into a really highly populated area. But that's just my beef with highly populated areas in general, because man, people who are sick get other people sick. And 90% of the time, people are not considerate when they're sick. They still do their day. And I get it. You can't shut down the world every time you're sick, but it's unfortunate. Because, like, I think the place that I get sick from the most is either the gym, but probably from my daughter's school. And so, kids are building their immune systems and they love to bring something home with them. I'm like, here, Dad, here's a box. Let's see how your body reacts to that one. And then you pass it and then everybody gets it and you just kind of have that wave. So it's just part of normal. But there's obviously, like, in this situation, we're talking about a very serious virus. And so that's why the fear is coming. So I love it. I know. And that's the one thing I can empathize and understand, because we all lived through that. We all had to deal with 2020. And that was so hard to go from normal to absolutely nothing. And I remember just my own personal story for this, but I remember for me, it was so hard because Tylee and JJ were missing. And I'm like, are people still trying to look for them? Like, and you know what? I will say this. I was like, have this happen during them looking for the kids and all this stuff. It felt like the end of the world for me. I didn't think it was like the apocalypse, but I was like, this whole doomsday thing and this happening right now. And the kids, like, that was just a lot to deal with at one time. So I'm not gonna lie, 2020 sucked for every reason. I think we all feel that way. And again, I always go back and forth. I empathize with both sides. I understand that if you have something, you want to be considerate of everybody. And you would not want to ever give someone something on purpose or put anybody's life in danger because we care about each other. It's the last thing you'd want to do. But I also think that there has to be an understanding that the world cannot shut down to that degree, because that was insane. That was just insane. And I don't know. I don't know what you do. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have an answer. If I was in charge, I genuinely don't know what I would have done either. But I don't think shutting down the world works. Let's just be honest. Like, it doesn't do much. It just puts you in your box of your home. But I don't know. I've thought about that a lot over the time. Yeah, 2020 was the worst year. I can honestly say that. That was the worst year ever. Yeah, I have that in a book alone would probably be a few chapters, to be honest with you. That is how much happened. I didn't even know that much stuff could happen in one amount of time. Like, I felt like there was so many events per week, the things that were happening. It was the fastest moving and the slowest moving, and it was the most loud and the most explosive, but also the most lonely. It's so weird. It's like it says so many things. And I want to say one thing that's totally off topic tonight. And I want your guys' thoughts in the comments. You guys, if you have a comment, I'll read it. We'll talk about what you're saying. Throw stuff in there. But I want to get back to the place where when we talk about anything in life, that two things can be true at one time. I understand there's certain objective truths, and those are things that are important to keep in mind. But a lot of times, and when I hear most people's arguments, it's like I get frustrated. I'm like, you're both right. The argument between the two, there's two truths and there's two perspectives. So it's like it's okay to have things be two things happening that both are true at the same time. It doesn't have to be black and white. And that's one thing my therapist has taught me. There's actually black and white thinking. We've talked about it on this channel, but that goes back and forth to even some of those things that you sometimes realize two things can be true, right? You could feel surrounded in the wrong way by so many different people. And then you can have the right way, which is so many people loving you and there for you. And you can also feel super lonely all at the same time, because I experienced that. So I just want to put that out there, that's why sometimes I think people just get confused. They feel alone and they don't feel like anybody understands them. So I think we just need to get back to that. Oh, 100%. We have lost our art of not agreeing and being able to move on. It has to be one way. It has to be my way or your way. It's so crazy. Like, what the hell's going on? Do you remember that? That was probably the funniest thing I've ever seen. We are in apocalyptic world. Again, I'd heard about this shit. Okay, I almost cussed. PG-13. Almost said it. I'd heard about this stuff my whole life, that the world was going to end. My mother instilled this in me my whole life. So it was either she was going to pass away or it was the end of the world. One of the two. Either way, you're living in fear. And we get to what we think possibly is the apocalypse, okay? Everybody wanted to freaking go get toilet paper. I've never seen anything like it. I'm like, dude, you can't. I'm not even trying to disrespect anybody, okay? I get it. Like, it's a bathroom essential. Brother, there's so many generations of people that did not have TP, okay? You are fine to wipe your butt with a leaf. There's something called water, if you had to. You'll figure it out. The fact that that was the number one thing on the off the shelf blows my mind. I'm like, are you guys not more concerned about food? It's toilet paper. Like, is that the necessity, the creature comfort that we're choosing to freak out about? I don't know. That's true. I don't know anymore. You can say some crazy stuff in PG-13s now. Yeah, that's why we're saying what we're saying. It's not COVID. It's the fact that people's reaction to this situation thinks this is going to be COVID. That's the thing. That's why it's so scary, right? It's not the actual situation. It's the freaking reaction. And it's the online pumping of content. And people don't realize that you could be spreading fear without even really knowing you're not trying to make people afraid, but you're spreading fear because you're coming in with this factual statements and saying all this stuff, are trying to make it connect to COVID and this and that, because some people just only jump on certain things to trend. That's it. It's just like, boom, 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 this is happening, I'm going to trend with this. It's like they don't have real discussions around it. They just give you snippets. So I don't know. I think that's where we have to be really careful with what we're watching. Oh, Meredith. You know what's so funny? I was thinking about that yesterday. I've been trying to get my PS5 to work on the stream. It wasn't working. I don't know why. So I've had to hit the Xbox, but we got to do that again. We got to get back over on Pop Culture Poppy. There's so many things that are pop culture related that I want to talk about that need to go over on that channel. So I'm going to get back on that. I promise. I would love that. But again, that's another thing I'll say real quick. Again, I'm always going to end off with this conversation being about your mental health. You have to take care of you. Worry doesn't do anything. Fear, how do I put this? Okay, I'll give you a perfect example. Me having fear that I'm going to laugh when I say the Black Bride is going to be at the bottom of the stairs if I click off the light. And I'm a grown man, okay? But if I have a fear the Black Bride's going to be there, this happened like a year ago, and then one day I stood up to the Black Bride, okay? I turned off the lights and I said, I wish you would. And that was the day I became a man, okay? I was 29, now I'm 30. Now listen, back to normal. Fear of that moment is, like I said, fear that the black bride is downstairs waiting. That's not true. And that's what's so scary is it's not real. And I'm not saying this virus isn't real, and I'm not saying anything like that. I'm not dismissing anything about it. But listen, perfect example right here. Okay. Number one, not a new virus. Number two, the fear is what is in your head. And this is why there's so many movies that specifically focus on psychological fear. I've never seen Saw. That sounds funny. I've never seen the movie Saw. Okay. I understand though that that whole movie is specifically about psychological torture and then the physical stuff that happens. And then there's other movies too. Like I think Scarecrow from Batman has a it's like a hallucinogen or something like that. And then I know Scorpion and Spider-Man in the game, he like injects you and you have, hallucinations, things like that. The thing is though, nothing is more powerful than somebody getting in your head. And that is what's bothering me about, I think, social media right now, just in general. People are getting into our heads tactically. Social media has a way, and I thought that, I don't know why, just I saw, okay, so this is how it happened. I saw a video, and you guys have ever heard of like farming? There's like this coin term of farming, but there's this thing called like TikTok farms and this like that. You go, this guy, like a police broke into this house, and there's phones on the wall like this, hundreds of phones plugged in, all playing videos. And I'm like, are they all getting views to that one video? Like, how does this work? But I think on TikTok, there's a setting that you can set it to where you don't have to scroll. So you could be on your phone and you can just sit there and it will auto scroll. That's a real thing. Don't quote me on that, but whatever. And the point that I'm making is that I was thinking, if it's so easy to farm the views, then it's probably easy to farm a lot of the comments. And I'm telling you right now, the comments is where a lot of people go for the same. I would assume the same thing. It's almost like, what are people saying? But in my opinion, it's kind of like we're all talking about our view or our opinion or reaction to this video. And I'm like, if these are all being bought and paid for, you could really sway people. And then you know why the other thing got me? This is a rabbit hole. Come down the rabbit hole with daddy. Here we go. Sorry, my kids call me daddy. Come down the rabbit hole with daddy. There's an AI Instagram. You guys heard of this? There's an AI Instagram that is like, it's an ad. And the ad says, imagine you're on social media and it's like just you. It's like there's nobody there. It's AI bots. And it looks like Instagram, and it like, I don't know. It's like fake Instagram to where people will just like and comment all over your crap. So I tell you that because if that is, there's certain things that are in your face, and there's certain things that just kind of like say, in my personal opinion, just kind of give you like, if this is here and it's right there, why can't that be applied over here? Meaning real Instagram using accounts or people, paying people, one of the two, to formulate opinions to sway. Not that hard. It scares me. It scares me because people now have more influence on the regular level, right? Back in our day, okay? Back when I was a younger cat, you couldn't just, the average person couldn't just do that. I couldn't do this. I couldn't be online with you guys because this didn't exist. So there was no way for us to connect. There was no way for me to have an opinion or for you to share your opinion with me and have this interaction. And so you'd have to be a celebrity to get on TV. You'd have to write a book. You'd have to have a publisher. It was all done through companies. And so that means they also had the narrative. And now we're open to everything, which is great. And the other side of that is a bunch of stuff going on. And so it worries me that the opinions are either being swayed or put into the system for us to formulate opinions, And there's so many subjects like that right now in the world where, like, you guys know there's stuff that's popping up on your social that's a big issue. And I think that's part of what this show is we're supposed to discuss these things. But you're not seeing this show 15 to 20 different times with different edits and clips with other people's commentary over it and sharing different perspectives. That takes this one thing that I'm doing right now and spreads it out and just turns it into a bunch of other things. And whoever sees that one snippet forms a whole opinion based off of that. I'm just trying to get you guys to see what I mean. 100%. That's what's sad. It breaks my heart that it's such a tool, and then it's also such a evil. It's crazy, right? Right? Exactly. It's crazy. This kind of stuff is happening every day where, again, they call them influencers for a reason, right? And some of them don't do anything. I'm sorry. Let's just be honest. They don't have a real reason to be there. They're either just like whatever, good looking or just well known. I remember when you had to have a talent or something to be recognized in that realm. And I swear, some people just exist to exist. And that's not wrong. Again, if you post a bunch of stuff and people like you, more power to you. It's not a judgment. I just think it's interesting that some people are put in a position of influence. And this is one thing I will always give Charles Barkley so much respect for. Charles Barkley was so famous. If you guys don't remember, Charles Barkley was an NBA player back when Michael Jordan was playing. And Charles Barkley said one thing, and he's a very controversial person. But one thing he said that I loved that was just down to earth, because like I said, he was known for a lot of crazy stuff. But Charles Barkley, clear as day, said, "I am not a role model." And at the time, sports, Michael Jordan was transcending sports. He was transcending the crossover between culture to sports. He's becoming bigger than, he was an icon, and people wanted to be like Michael and wanted to be like Mike. And, he had a lot of influence because they loved his basketball. So basketball became, what he's known for, but then he started to grace everything. And so everything at some point started to really blend, and the athlete became an influencer, whether they like it or not, because now there's a following of that one person. And then we made social media, and social media specifically has that thing, followers. And in that way, you're saying to people, you have an influence. What you say can and will matter. And the problem is not everybody is equipped for that. And Charles Barkley said, I'm not a role model. I shouldn't be your role model. And I think that's the most honest thing you could ever say as an athlete. Because if you know yourself, it's just self-awareness. Like, hey, you like watching me hoop. That's great. Let's do that. Just look at me as a basketball player. Right? Yeah, I think that's the most self-aware statement you could make, because no one else would say that, especially in that position, because monetarily, that statement would be not a good statement. It'd be like, oh, so he's a bad guy, whatever, right? Like, people are always trying to look for the right thing to say or like the perfect thing to say. He just straight up said, I should not be looked at as, a role model. And I love that, because he was being honest, and he's telling the younger generations straight up, do not look at me as a role model. It doesn't mean you can't change or get better or whatever. But the problem is, influence is a big deal. And when somebody with influence picks up on a subject like this and starts going down that place, it gets in people's heads. And again, let's think of the younger generation coming up. They don't have, there's just the chances that they have to sort through. I have to use the one cuss word of the show. I don't think we've cussed on the show at all, but for them to get through the bullshit, right? At that point, I mean, imagine where this is all headed in the next little bit. You take one subject like this virus, it's in an isolated situation, it's starting to spread a little bit, this and that, and then all of a sudden it hits social media and it just spreads, and everybody's afraid. And that's my point, is like, the thing is, when people have influence, or a page has more followers, or this and that, it just is what it is. Oh, I like Charles Barkley. I mean, again, I can admit when somebody does something crazy. I know he's fought fans. I know he said some stuff. I don't agree with everything the dude says. But again, first of all, he's one of the funniest people off the cuff ever. And secondly, he's got a good personality. And you know what? He's one of the most straight shooters, right? He says things exactly how they are. And that is a rare freaking quality in this world. To be liked is 90%, I would say, I don't know, 95% of people, if not more, are more afraid of being judged and disliked than saying what how they actually feel. And a lot of times you don't get to know someone unless you're behind closed doors with them, because they're not going to tell you their true thoughts, because we've gotten to a place in the world where your thoughts on something have now put you in a category. So if you have a thought that can change, if you're an open-minded person and you just say, I have this amount of information and this is what I think about that, and you state that, then everybody who's not in that same place, it's like freaking war. Like now it's gotta go down. And you're this, and this. I'm like, we gotta slow down. You gotta be careful with this. This is getting out of hand. It's getting out of hand. Why do we have to disagree and then it goes to straight to hate? How stupid is that? I'm sorry. How stupid is that? Why in the world? What if you and I 180 agree? If we sat down and said, this is our belief system, this is what we think is right and wrong, and this and that. The hate doesn't have to come from that. That doesn't solve the problem. That doesn't help us. It doesn't help the world. Right. And that's literally, I'm just going to say it like it is. If you look historically, that's literally all war is: disagreement and power trips and stuff like that. Not enough talking. And there's other factors, which is unfortunate. Financial factors, trying to stimulate their economy, whatever people want. But it's always coming from bad places. That's all I'm going to say. All these things that you see are not coming from good places or the betterment of each other or trying to understand each other. It's all about who wins, who, who's the dominant, it's just crazy to me. I don't understand it. I never will, you know. We'll have to do some history stuff on this channel too, because it means so much. If you see the history of a lot of different things, it will start to reveal what the world looks like right now. Nothing we're seeing is very new. It's just different. That is what's so scary about this world. It's not new. The tactics are the same. The things are the same. It's just how it's happening, right? So you make social media the good and the bad, right? People just blending into the new environment. So it's crazy, but we could tangent on that all night. This is an announcement real quick at the end of this for all the members. We're going to start doing some live segments of this show specifically for members. And I can't wait for that, because some of that stuff is some of these other subjects, right? So most of it's going to be some of the subjects that I think are going to be a little more touchy, and that's okay, because I still want to have those conversations with you guys. So letting you guys know that now. But I love you guys. It is the end of our show. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night. I'm going to let you know what's going on this week. I appreciate and love you for being patient. We were gone for a few days. We're back this week. And yeah, I love you guys, man. Stay safe out there. Pray, have discernment. Don't freak out. Fear is the opposite of your faith, and it's not going to get you anywhere. It's just going to bring you distress and pain and worry. So, take your time and be grateful. Be grateful today. Love you guys, man.